So we're not standing up here as experts. We're standing up here as people that care about this issue and have something to say and add to the conversation. So everyone within this room is equally as qualified to be a part of the conversation, and we want to make sure that that happens. So we're so excited. Sorry, I said something. Anyways,
we're just joking about how we're actually going to try to allow for a Q&A this time.
I know. Last time we were a little long-winded. This time we're learning from our mistakes. Yeah. So I just, first I think we're just going to take some time to, one more thing that I want to qualify. We are at a human rights organization, human rights conference. And so it may seem like, why are we talking about like female rights or like feminists here when we're trying to end a conflict in Central Africa? And we're a human rights organization working for human rights, and I think females are humans, last time I checked. And so this is a relevant conversation, and we fully believe that in order for there to be peace on the other side of the world, there has to be peace starting right here as well. And so this is us investing into that belief. So without further ado, we're going to introduce our panelists. Do you want to start, Collins?
Thank you. Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. My name is Collins Anwech, and I'm a scholarship beneficiary of Invisible Children. I also work with an organization called Hope for Humans. We care for children with Nordic syndrome. And I also represent less than 1% of women who've made it to university in Uganda.
Hi, I'm Meg for Goodness. These are so nice. I'm a licensed therapist. I work with juvenile sex offenders. I'm also a doctorate student. I'm in a clinical psychology PhD program right now. And I'm also a researcher. I do research in the area of sexually abusive youth. And I'm a hot yoga teacher. Come home with me. And I love Invisible Children, obviously, and all of you. So thank you for being here today.
I'm Alexis Jones, and I founded a nonprofit with my best friend Emily Greener called I Am That Girl. We're a badass version of Girl Scouts for college girls. So we have a bunch of chapters all over. IC is one of the big things we support. Bob Bailey's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. And his lovely counterpart. No, it's been a real privilege. I went to SC with these boys, and I mentioned this in the last one, but it's been a real privilege to get to watch what you guys have created and to have been a part of this for a long time. So thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
My name is Yale Cohen, and I founded a nonprofit called Fuck Cancer. And we just did this, so I feel like we're so much better prepared and super excited. But I'm really excited and thankful to Invisible Children for bringing us together, but to have an awesome conversation about something I think we need to talk a little bit more about with these kick-ass ladies.
Hi guys, I'm Sophia Bush. Hi everyone. I would say probably known on the internet as an actor, but I would first and foremost consider myself an activist, and I'm very grateful and I feel very lucky that those of you who are cheering, for actor reasons, have given me the platform that I have to talk about global change and human rights issues with amazing women like these and with all the incredible people who work at Invisible Children. And I think I'd just like to say thanks on behalf of all of us for all of you showing up and just by being here, proving to us that this generation is badass. So thanks. Thanks.
I don't have my list of questions, so I feel unprepared. Okay, here we go. Well, we want to start with Alexis again, and we wanted you to talk a little bit more about your organization and kind of like foundationally kick us off for like why is it important for young girls to, be equal and find purpose. Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing out there?
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of funny because we just did this panel, so I'm like looking at the girls being like, are y'all going to say the same thing? We're like doing new content right now. So I'm not going to talk about what I talked about last time, but how and why I'm Not Girl Matters. Speaking of activism, I guess I'll touch on this. Soph and I went to college together, OSC days. She actually rushed me in our sorority. And there was this big moment. So sophomore year of high school, a lot of things happened, of college, excuse me. A lot of things happened, and one of the moments that was really big was I was in this really awesome play by Eve Ensler called The Giant Monologues. And it was interesting because I remember coming home and all of a sudden like my mind was blown of like all these atrocities going on with women all over the world. Right? Of acid burning in Iran and of genital mutilation happening in Africa and child marriage happening in Ethiopia. This wasn't on my radar. And we all of a sudden started talking about sex trafficking and all of these things. And it was interesting because much like you, it's like I was preparing for a role and I was getting up to perform this on stage. But I remember I went back to Kappa, of all places, and I sat down with 6 girls at the lunch table. And I said, we have a lot of conversations about things that don't matter, right? Clothes and shoes and boys and gossip and movies, and it's awesome, but what if once a week we had conversations about things that did? Would you come and would you be interested? And those first 6 girls showed up. And we sat there, and I remember I was like Xeroxing like articles, and I was like, we're going to talk about this recent, incident that happened in Ethiopia. And sure enough, very quickly, it became a conversation. And one of the girls was like, yeah, I've been struggling with an eating disorder. We're like, what? Like, why didn't you tell anyone? And another one was like, yeah, my parents went through a divorce. It's kind of tough. And it was like all of a sudden, all these girls were being real. Like these are like sorority sisters, like girls we spend a lot of time with. And it didn't dawn on us that we had never actually sat down and talked about the epidemic of insecurity that is happening among girls today. That we were unable, even in the midst of our friends, to really sit down and say, like, I don't know about you, but I woke up stressed out this morning because of X, Y, and Z. And after that first meeting, it was like therapy, so we're all like crying, we're like, no, you're amazing, and I just want you to know, and I was like, this is great, do you want to come next week? I was like, bring someone if you want to, and 6 weeks later, we had 347 girls showing up on campus. And the cool thing to me about that was that it transcended stereotype. It didn't matter whether you were a sorority girl, or if you were a sports girl, or what your ethnicity, or your gender, or what your sexual preference was. It was people in droves were coming to be a part of this. USC didn't know what to do with me. They were like, who is this chick who keeps outgrowing venues? And it became a community. And it became this, these amazing women showing up because we may all have very different perspectives on life in general, but we had one similar vision, was that we believed that our voices mattered and that we wanted our lives to stand for something bigger than ourselves. That's activism to me. But it was also, that was the impetus for this has to be resurrected on every campus. There has to be these chapters everywhere. And like I said before, Brene Brown is one of my favorite authors right now. And she made this incredible distinction, and I'll end on this. She said there's, in the past we've always defined courage is the willingness to put your life on the line, right? So we refer to firemen as courageous. They go back in, a burning building. And she said, I'm going to be audacious enough to actually redefine that and say that true bravery, true courage is the willingness to put your vulnerability on the line. And that was one of those moments I read that I was like, it's so interesting to me, this notion of bravery and courage that comes in vulnerability. Because I think it's the one thing, and I know so we're going to end up getting in the same conversation with media and the expectations of girls and of people always feeling that we have to be perfect all the time, and the guilt and the shame that we felt in different areas in our lives. And I Am That Girl was really just how do we inspire authentic confidence in girls? And how do we build a community to where we are supporting, loving, resurrecting, cherishing, protecting girls in the way in which they deserve to be?
conversation that can be so natural, not just conversation, but obviously looks and all of those things are such easy go-tos, and that's something that I really admire about you, Sophie. I follow her on Instagram, and I love it because I honestly feel that when I'm scrolling through my feed, I at times like have substance poured into me because of the things that you post. And I just remember once like seeing a post that you said, and you were eating food, which we all do, and there was a hashtag about like, this is how you make it in Hollywood, you starve or you don't eat, or something along those lines. It was like a sarcastic comment that she eats and she's in Hollywood. And then she had a hashtag that 0 is not a size. And that was just so profound to me because I don't feel that many people that use their platform to promote countercultural things. We're often trying to like fit in and be recognized for whatever it is we think we need. And so I'd love to kind of hear a little bit what that hashtag is about, and also like how you've like risen above potentially what's projected onto in an industry that is so dominated by image.
Well, so the photo you're referring to is actually, it was from a fun little pseudo-IC field trip. A bunch of us, Kenny and Jed, and a bunch of friends when they had, well, he works here now, but a bunch of the guys had come up from San Diego, and we went to the farmer's market on Sunday morning, which is my favorite place on earth, and it's like a plethora of amazing food, and for someone like me, that gets really overstimulating, because I'm like, I want a gyro, and I want a breakfast burrito, and I want all the things, what am I going to do? And we'd ordered all this food, and I had a bowl of noodles in my hand, and was eating a breakfast burrito, and my roommate was like, you are a human garbage disposal. Like, put something down, it's really disgusting. She took a photo and Instagrammed it, and was like, proof you gotta starve yourself to make your H wood. And I took a screen grab and was like, clearly my friends know me so well, hashtag breakfast burrito, hashtag 0 is not a size. And it was interesting because there were a lot of people who were like, go you, 2 breakfasts are awesome. And then like there was somebody who was lovely, but I guess we figured it out later in the comments. English was not her first language, and was like, how dare you say such a thing? And I was like, you know, it's clearly sarcastic. I'm having like a 4,000 calorie breakfast right now. I'm obviously not being literal. And it wound up spawning a really interesting conversation, and I spent half the day talking to girls on Instagram and on Twitter, and it was something that I tried to start putting out there. I want to say, oh God, it all blends together. We were in North Carolina for so long making one trio, but I think it was maybe season 7, maybe season 8, I don't know. One of those. Season 7? I thought so, and I was like, maybe I'm wrong. And I appreciate it, thank you so much. And you know, my character on the show followed her passion, he became a fashion designer, and there was this whole thing that I was always really passionate about. I've been told to fit a certain model before by bosses in my career, and my answer to them is like, well, when you can fit in a size 0, I will. Like, bite me. So they were like, well, if you're going to be salty, we might as well make this a character thing. And so we got to put in some really interesting references to what that means on the show. And they listened to me, or rather I persuaded them by screaming and yelling on the phone about it enough to do this storyline. It wound up really resonating with people. And it was profoundly effective to our audience, but also to all of us. And I remember sitting at work one day with Lisa Goldstein and Jana Kramer, and we were all just like, everybody's mean, and it's really hard. And everybody was crying, and Lisa, who I think literally she looks like a Pixar character. I mean, can we talk about it? Like Millicent. She looks like a Disney movie. She came to life, and she like should be singing with birds. And I had never thought ever that Lisa would have been insecure, because we all always tease her about being our prettiest friend. And she just broke down crying when we did that episode. And we all go through that. And the thing that I thought about was, well, why? Because here I am, a person who, on paper, seems like she's doing pretty well. I mean, I did 187 episodes of a TV show. And I did those episodes usually at a size 4, but sometimes at a size 2, and sometimes at one time when things were not going so well, and I was super stressed out and not sleeping, not for any effort, but I lost 15 pounds, my hair started falling out. I was not okay because of other circumstances going on in my life, and I didn't have people at the time who I could talk to about it, and I suffered it alone, and it came out in my body. And I remember showing up to work one day, and a very powerful person on my show was like, God, what are you getting into? You look hot, you look like you've been doing heroin, I love you this skinny. And I was like, cool, well my life's falling apart, so fuck you. I'm gonna go eat something because I feel like I'm dying. And it just is something I've watched because I've been there. And when I'm healthy and happy, I'm like really happy right now. I'm not the skinniest I've ever been. And I don't know why that should define me as a person. I don't know why that should define any of us as a person. And so the idea for me, some people have gotten upset about it, a small majority, but have been like, I'm naturally a size 0 and I can't gain weight. And I'm like, yeah, I have one of those friends too. She's like also 9 feet tall, whatever. And it's hard for her. And I realize what I'm saying is not that whatever size you are is unacceptable. It's who are you really naturally. The size of you as a person shouldn't be about the size you wear on your clothes, it should be about the size of your heart. The size and the shape of your soul and the impact you choose to have on the world. That is the size of you. We joke that in our group of friends, a lot of us are tiny but mighty. Because we are like little ladies and we're not that tall, but like, don't fuck with us. We'll come for you. And we are big women, even though the majority of us are under 5'5". That's what I find valuable about size. So I think we all as women, you're really tall, I know, she's like this, and the hair. But, you know, why don't we start looking at the size of our souls instead of the size of our jeans? Because I'm sick of thinking about the size of clothes I wear, and I'd imagine most of you are too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how do you think that, you know, we maybe contribute to that or don't contribute? I know we talked a lot about the competition factor among women. Like, how do you, and yeah, you talked about this a little bit, but like, how do you think we can promote a culture among women that doesn't perpetuate what Sophia was talking about?
We did talk about this, so if you're here, we're sorry to hear it again. You know, we were talking about in the context of cattiness and like judgment and bitchiness, and it's so easy. So often it's so easy to cast judgment on pretty successful, awesome, smart girls, men, whatever. But generally, we do it at each other because that's what we grew up doing, and it makes us feel bigger to put somebody else down or to justify a good by balancing out the bad. And I think it starts, as I said before, it's twofold. One, it's about receiving, and one, it's about giving. We have to start giving the judgment by being happy with ourselves, by being confident and knowing that we're enough, and knowing that whoever you are and whatever you're about is fucking awesome, and it's good enough, and you don't have to put somebody else down to make yourself feel better. And the minute that we stop putting other women down is the minute that we stop really listening to this shit too, because there's always going to be shit. And we had talked about it in the sense of, like, don't read the comments. The worst possible thing you can do digitally is read the comments, because you can be having the best day ever, you can be feeling smart and capable and amazing, and all of a sudden you feel this big because somebody commented not on what you said or who you are or what you believe, but on what you're freaking wearing, of all things. And so it's stop giving it and stop listening to what you're getting.
And I also think it's important to realize that it's relative. Beauty, whatever that means, is relative. We often talk about the fact that really beautiful women seem like they're glowing, and sometimes that's because they're pregnant. But most of the time, it's because they're happy. And happiness comes from within. You light up. I mean, Lydia's my friend, she gets my humor. You light up when you're happy and when you're joyful, and that doesn't come from fitting into a certain size. It doesn't. If you're healthy and you're active and you're one of those people who gets up at 6 in the morning and is like, I'm gonna make a coffee and go for a run. I want to be that person. I'm not. And that's okay. And for me, I'd imagine I want to make an anecdote, but I also don't want to make it if it's stupid. Can I just show of hands, whoever saw the show that I worked on forever? Okay, great. So you're all also of the age that we are, social media, fucking tabloid magazines, all that stuff. So I had a really jarring experience about a year ago where a photo was published from a charity event that I went to, and they were like, shows off her toned legs. And I was like, I'm so self-conscious about my legs, really? Interesting. And a week later, a photo was published that someone was taking that I didn't know they were taking when I was walking down the street in a pair of shorts. Blown up, thighs circled, like even celebrities have cellulite. And I was like, well, shit. and here's the thing, one magazine is like, she's the epitome of health, and one magazine's like, she's fat. And I was like, you know what? I am the same. I am what I am. I'm never going to please everybody. And I think, like you're saying, when we all lay down that sword and stop fighting that battle of, if I get to X, if I make this much money, if I date this kind of guy, if I drive this kind of car, if I get this kind of validation, I'll be happy. Nobody else is ever going to make you happy. You need to strive for that feeling in yourself. And one of the best ways to do it is by supporting your community rather than by cutting down your community. And women cut women down so often. And part of the reason that our group of friends is badass and our new friends, I mean, we had like kind of a cry fest in the last thing, is badass is because we're sitting here genuinely interested in what the other person is doing and saying your success doesn't diminish from my ability to be successful. Your success reinforces my success, which reinforces your success. We do this as a community. We lift each other up. So if we stop beating ourselves up and we stop beating up other women, we're going to have a lot more free time to do epic shit.
This is a stereotype, and so I don't want to dwell on it or offend anyone, but often, because of the culture of women, we have a tendency to be people pleasers, and it's just the culture of at least Western women, you know, being the homemakers and the blah, 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 and existing to make our families happy and healthy. And I find it so interesting, like Meg, learning about your story and knowing that you're such an advocate for other people. You know, and you come alongside a demographic that is very marginalized, whether they should be or shouldn't be. I'm sure people will argue about, but you have a heart for them, and that